Hi, Concord here. Today I talk with sound designers Sam and Nigel. They have worked on sound for major Hollywood films such as Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Australia.
Welcome to Australia.
And animated films such as The Lego Movie.
To the Batmobile! Dang it.
To the invisible jet! Dang it.
And TV shows such as Blue-Eyed Samurai.
Let December's light brighten a path to the men I seek. Guide my steps until I find them and kill them.
Join me as I talk to them about sound design.
I'm Eli Bell. I've got a story.
What kind of story?
With your latest show that you both worked on, the Netflix's Boy Swallows universe, that there's some scenes in there have quite an atmosphere to them. Even when I think it's the second episode or the first episode where he's got the samurai sword and he's about to do something to the rat.
What are you students doing?
But when those doors close, it echoes through the corridor and it adds quite an atmosphere to that scene that something's going to happen here. And it's done really well. Does the director sometimes go, now that you've done the sound for that, it just adds so much to that scene, even though you wouldn't think it's, a major scene, but it also, the sound has added so much to that scene.
I approach every scene as a major scene. I don't skip any scene in terms of, and the quiet scenes are often more difficult. In terms of that specific scene with the doors and the reverb, I'm very impressed you picked up on that. As I get further on in my career, I move further and further away from what is the literal to what is the mood. Really, for that, I just wanted to emulate the feeling of what Eli would have been going through in terms of entering that hallway and approaching the bully with a giant samurai sword. So those doors, I wanted it to sound more like a dungeon or a prison or something rather than just school. So, and that whole show was very heightened magic realism. So I tended to kind of push the reverbs and the sub and the and everything kind of that 5-10% more than you would if you were just trying to create a literal realistic soundtrack.
Yeah, it was very much a stylistic approach for that whole show, as Sam said, that the magic realism and heightened emotional depth and so a lot of scenes like that where I'll put in all sorts of layers of rumble and weirdness that actually they do actually change dramatically, from schoolyard to then we're no longer emotionally in the schoolyard, we're facing off in a dungeon in a dangerous dark place. And that's
a great show what you've done there, because I noticed the ambience of the kookaburras, the magpies. It has great directional. When Lyle reverses out of the driveway, it actually goes to the rear left speaker, and I went, hey, that's pretty cool. And it's a show that's basically a drama in some way, but you've done the sound so well that it impacts the show and it gives that heightened tension at times, and it's really good to see. And as I mentioned to you both in episode 4, my 2 subwoofers got a good workout in the dream sequence. So well done. A lot of rumbling. I might have to replace the gyprock now. So.
Eli.
It actually blows my mind how much of that kind of stuff you did on Boy Swallows Universe, Nigel. Nigel did a lot of ambisonic recordings of around where he lives.
That's right. I can talk about that.
But also like the fishing reel and the typewriter and the So Nigel did an incredible amount of original recordings for Boy Swallows Universe that you don't normally have the time for with TV, and we didn't really have the time for on Boy Swallows Universe, even though it was more generous than probably, like, it was the time frame for Boy Swallows Universe was more general than TV normally is in this country, but it still wasn't enough really for the ambition that they had or I had for the track. And so I think everyone ended up doing quite a bit of extra for the love of it and for the track. And I think that shines through that everyone really did their very best. It wasn't just a clock on, clock off job. No. It was, we've got to make this a cultural landmark. So
it was production quality was very good in that show, and I must admit that show was a roller coaster of emotions. And there was times where I was absolutely laughing out loud because I was born in the 70s, and so all those 80s type of it was gold. Because I was going to say with the little Gemini car, was that? Did you have to find the sound, or you just recorded?
So the Gemini, to answer your question generally, I'd say on Boy Swallows Universe, probably 85% production sound in terms of the dialogue.
Spoken words, just the spoken words.
Just the words.
Yeah.
But, and then we recorded ADR where there was technical difficulties, or where they might have wanted an extra line, or maybe performance. But all of the sounds you hear, the Gemini, the footsteps, the fishing reel, the atmospheres, the birds, that's all us post-production.
It's all created.
It's all created. So the Gemini, actually, all the cars, they were up in Brisbane. And again, this is a luxury for a TV production. We got all those cars recorded by Folklore Sound up in Brisbane. Tom Keller, who I've worked with a lot on things like Beat Bugs and Ivan Sen's films. They did an amazing job recording all of the cars, the van, the Gemini, the Kingswood, and they did a really, really beautiful job of recording those. All of the cars are original recordings for Boy Swallows Universe. Very authentic, very real.
So it is. So the sounds of the cars are the cars that you see, but they're not the sound from that moment that you're seeing them.
Right.
Because the microphones on set are just trained on the actors' voices, or there might just be lapels. So that anything that is not voices sounds really, really distant and muted and rubbish. And it all gets stripped. And then we go through and completely recreate all the sounds of all the usual things, and then all the sounds of all the magical things. And and for that show, because as you know, it's in the 80s, but it was filmed last year, so the soundtrack and visually as well is full of modern things. And so they had to visually, in visual effects and so forth, strip every post 1980 thing out of the imagery, and we had to strip every modern sound out of it, and then had to recreate the sounds of those worlds. And I did lots and lots of recordings in neighboring villages and towns, and we're like, oh, modern car, no, that's no good. Oh, old V8, yes, that one's in. So I had to sort of then go through all my recordings, these atmospheres, and make sure that the vehicles and the ambiences were 80s correct. And also, I was a teenager in the 80s, so it was all my world. So it was very exciting, iconically Australian, which is why, you mentioned hearing all those Australian birds. And Sam's even had messages from people in America, Australians living in America, going, oh my God, I watched the show and I heard our birds, I heard Australian, just coming through. So
it actually made them cry.
Yeah.
It made them homesick and cry. But what's also awesome about the atmospheres that Nigel recorded is, like I said, I'm not really into the literal as much as the mood. Somehow Nigel managed to record authentic literal backgrounds that also managed to reflect the mood of each scene. I might filter things or compress things or something to kind of try and get it into that thing, and I might duck some pretty birds where we don't want to be pretty or whatever. But yeah, mood is everything. I think mood is far more important than anything for every scene. So Nigel did an incredible job of recording both authentic and emotive backgrounds.
Oh, thanks, Sam. You have to give you $50 after this.